Hi, citizens. This is Jim with JP Reacts, where you come to think like a politician so you can figure out what politicians mean by what they say and what they don't say. And you can better understand what's going on in your government and politics. Tonight, we're going to be listening to a video that covers the American Rescue Plan from the the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell. He's going to be talking about it. And I'm going to be going off of what he means by what he's saying. So if you're into that, stay tuned after this. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. Again, this is Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell. He's going to be talking about the American Rescue Plan, which is President Biden's COVID relief bill. So we'll jump right into it, see what he has to say.
In 2020, a Republican Senate and a Republican administration led 5 historic pandemic rescue packages on a completely bipartisan basis. We marshaled the largest federal response to any crisis since World War II, about $4 trillion across 5 bills, all of it completely bipartisan.
I get that he's saying that these are bipartisan bills, but basically I want to make sure we don't rewrite history here. The Republicans controlled the Senate at that time and the White House, and basically didn't really do anything for a very long time after the initial COVID relief ran out. Democrats have wanted to do much more since the relief ran out at the end of spring, beginning of summer. And the Republicans in the Senate just didn't want to do anything. Eventually, Democrats agreed to a bill, which was very minimal because that's the only thing Republicans would agree to. So yes, in the end, it was bipartisan, but it wasn't exactly a compromise between the two parties. It was more of, hey, the Democrats want anything to get passed because people needed the help. And Republicans didn't care either way, it didn't seem like. So at the end of the day, yes, it was bipartisan, but it wasn't because of a compromise effort. It was more of Democrats just agreeing to at least get something done.
But now Washington Democrats have other ideas. Even though we are still pushing out $900 billion in relief that Congress passed less than 2 months ago, even though a group of Senate Republicans met with President Biden to discuss bipartisan avenues for hundreds of billions of dollars more, Washington Democrats have decided they want to go it alone.
So you might be wondering why he keeps saying Washington Democrats. The reason that a lot of Republican leaders and Republican speakers do that is, and Democrats do it too, a little less often, but they do it too, they'll say Washington Republicans, is they want to try to separate the members of Congress and Senate that are Democrats in Washington from Democrats in large part across the country. And they think it's a strategy to put a divide between regular Democrats, and Washington Democrats. There really isn't a major divide between it. Democrats in general across the country say there needs to be relief. Economic experts across the country say there needs to be additional COVID relief. And the only people, and Republicans across the country agree that there needs to be additional COVID relief. Former President Trump agreed that there needed to be additional COVID relief. The only people that seem not to are the Republicans in Congress. The reason that when you hear politicians say Washington Democrats or Washington Republicans, it's really more of an effort to split the other party between the members that are in Washington and the rest of the members of the party, even if there isn't a real split in the conversation. It sounds like there might be a split. So that's why he's bringing it up that way.
Last March, remember when a senior House Democrat called this disaster, quote, a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. Americans are suffering, but their side seems to see an opportunity to ram through.
This comes up a lot too, on both sides. Every time there is some sort of economic calamity that requires a big effort, when there's some sort of chaos, each side thinks of it as a way to increase their leverage. So the fact that some member of the Democratic Party at some point said that they could use this to affect their change makes sense, because that happens every time there's something, regardless of who's in party. I'm sure there were Republicans who said the same thing, and if they had won the election in 2020, they would have tried to attempt the same type of deal.
Ideological change. That's the impulse behind Democrats' latest $1.9 trillion proposal. Their plan for more massive borrowing puts left-wing myths ahead of scientific evidence and the nation's urgent needs. While the Biden administration's own scientists say schools could reopen safely right now with smart and simple precautions, their proposal.
That's not true. Biden's the smart and simple precautions they're talking about would cost a lot of money, and schools don't have the money right now to pay for it, so they couldn't open right now. This is very misleading, so I want to make sure I clarified that right away.
Proposal buys into the myth from big labor that schools should stay shut a whole lot longer. While Republicans want to save as many jobs as possible, Washington Democrats are backing Senator Sanders' demand to move to double the minimum wage.
For record, the minimum wage hasn't been raised, I think, since 2007 or something like that. So it's been a really long time, and nobody can live on at a full-time hours on the minimum wage currently. It's impossible. People work multiple jobs on minimum wage and can't afford to live. Those people end up on government programs such as food stamps, which is a SNAP program, welfare, Medicaid, all these things, because they can't afford to live. So a higher minimum wage, most economists agree, would stimulate the economy and help these people live at a sustainable level.
The Congressional Budget Office says this would kill 1.4 million American jobs.
There's no evidence that raising the minimum wage ever has killed a significant number of jobs. It usually creates jobs because there's more money flowing through the economy.
Nonpartisan experts say it would send more people to the unemployment line than it would lift out of poverty. But remember, this is all about liberal dreams, not urgent needs. Some Democrats even want to break Senate rules to jam this through. Last week, the Senate had a 14-hour voting marathon on amendments to the phony partisan budget that Democrats jammed through as a procedural first step.
Just for the record, Republicans did the exact same procedure. He's talking about reconciliation, which I mentioned in a previous video. Republicans did that with a $1.9 trillion budget that cut taxes mainly on the wealthiest Americans and wealthiest companies back in 2017 when President Trump first took office.
We got senators on record on a host of questions that matter to American families. Sadly, Democrats blocked our efforts to say that at the very least, school districts where teachers have been vaccinated certainly need to reopen.
Vaccination isn't a conclusive way to stop the spread. It hasn't been shown yet that being vaccinated or having been affected prevents you from spreading it to others. And just because teachers are vaccinated or staff is vaccinated doesn't mean that they can't pass it to the kids who could pass it to members of the families that they go home to. There's more people involved than just the teachers and the kids and the staff in these situations. It's not safe currently. So that was Senate Republican leader McConnell talking about the American Recovery Act and the process. He's talking about reconciliation. It's a commonly used procedure in the Senate to move budget-related items through. He used it many times, and it's pretty disingenuous for him to complain about it now. He has really warped. If you look back in history, there was very limited times when filibusters were needed. I talked about that in a previous video. And since he's become leader of the Republicans in the Senate, it has happened much more frequently. and it's really slowed down work in the Senate. And he's basically warping the rules of the Senate to really slow down progress and to slow stuff down, so it can't go into effect when they're in the minority. When he's in the majority, he uses the rules to push through things as quickly as possible. So he's not exactly the person I would go to see what is the best way or the most right way for things to move through the Senate. There's a lot of really complicated and, frankly, I think, unnecessary rules in the Senate that is preventing legislation to move through. Hopefully, in the future, we can move past it, primarily that filibuster rule that I talked about in a previous video. But right now, we got to live with the rules that we have. So hopefully, we can still get things through and get work done that the American people need. So, but that was all that was in this video. So hopefully you gained a little bit of background information about why he's talking the way he does and what he means by some of the phrasing that he uses. There's always a little bit of a code, especially when you're talking with leaders of the parties. So you want to make sure you're listening closely to not just what they're saying, but what they're not. So if you got some more information on this than before, you found some value, please like this video below. And in the comments below, tell me what you think would be the first major stumbling block for getting kids back to school. Is it getting vaccines widely distributed, or is it refitting classrooms to make them safer for everybody involved? But until you answer those questions below, I'll see you around the internet. Have a great day. Bye.